So hello, good afternoon, good morning, good evening to all of our audience today. Before I present to you our lecturers today, I would like first to get to know a little bit better of our audience. That's why I would like to ask, please, if you could please tell us the country where you were based in, so we can know. Okay, great. Now, just to try to adapt a bit of our content to our audience, we'd like also to understand a bit more what kind of job do you have if you are a soccer coach, if you're a soccer scout, a soccer analyst. Could you please write on the chat box, please? So, okay, great. So, as I told you before, today, and inserted in our Soccer Hub Online Summit Special Edition, the World Cup Special Edition, we will discuss preparing athletes for a physical challenge. And for that, we have invited JOÁO AROSO, soccer coach and former assistant coach of the Portuguese national soccer team. We have also ROGÉRIO Pereira, it's an expert in sport injuries prevention and rehabilitation, and also NUNO CERDEIRA, physical and conditioning coach. One more thing for you to notice is that NUNO CERDEIRA is already available a course on Soccer Hub. The course, it's a certification course of the peer model developed by NUNO CERDEIRA. So it's strength and conditioning, a peer model certification. So that's important for you to know that this course is available right now on pre-sale with a 75% discount, okay? I'm sure Nuno that will have the opportunity during the course to talk a little bit more about the content of this course. But right now, I'd like to welcome you all, João, ROGÉRIO, and Nuno. And for now, Nuno, I would like to give you the ball so you can start this conversation. See you soon, guys, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ricardo. Hello, welcome all. Welcome to João and ROGÉRIO. Thank you very much for being here. Today we are going to talk about the physical condition and related with soccer or football, but we are going to talk about soccer just to be worldwide. In only 10 years, the physical nature of the soccer game has changed. In fact, the game is more physical than ever. In fact, a lot of studies in 2017 and 2006 say that the high-intensity sprinting distance increased by 35% to 40%, or for instance, between 2006 and 2013. Not only the players are running faster, more often, but most of the goals or goal opportunities are preceded straight sprinting. It means that the player must be stronger to, for instance, have the power to jump higher, to run faster, and score more goals, or avoid the goals. So my first question is going to João AROSO. How can we manage athletes with different backgrounds related to strength and power training? Obviously in soccer environment.
Hi, good afternoon, all. I will try to share my vision as a coach, not as a fitness coach, right? And considering the experience, because I believe the context is more related with the World Cup, the national teams. Considering the experience I had at the national team, what we used to do, considering that the athletes that we selected for the team were provenient from several clubs with different habits, training habits. What we used to do was to maintain a relationship, close relationship with the technical staffs of the clubs where the players came from, in order to understand what it is they were used to, more concerning with gym habits, with gym work. And then what we used to do was considering the planification that we have for our sessions, normally very few time, some days, sometimes a week. Of course, before the World Cup or the European Cup, we have some more time with them to adapt these programs to our planification. So what we used to do was to ask for the gym plans of the players, and try to adapt in order to allow them to disadapt as less as possible. So this was the way we believed we were respecting the work of the clubs, and as well working the best way with the players, because I believe that if they are used to some habits of work, is not good when they are for a short time in a different reality, to promote different habits. Of course, there are situations that we have to do the work on the pitch with the whole team, but these specificities that I spoke about, related with specific training, we try to attend to their habits, as I said.
Okay. Nice introduction. Thank you very much. In fact, right now, we're going to talk about the World Cup. But right now, I will gladly ask you to start with a pre-season evaluation. We're going to talk, first of all, we're going to talk in the pre-season. We're going to pretend that we are maintaining the same players in the whole season, and then they will be with us in the World Cup. So my first questions right now will be about the pre-season. Then we're going to the in-season, the World Cup, and last but not the least, the off-season. Okay, just to figure out like a chronological status, we are going to see how can we engage the player from the first match to the last match of the World Cup. Okay. So I will do the same question for you, Rogério. Now, in the terms of the we're going to start, please, in the preseason. So in the physiotherapist view, how can we manage sport physiotherapist, obviously? How can we manage athletes with different backgrounds related to strength and power training? What's your opinion?
Well, in first place, thank you so much for the invitation. It is a pleasure to be here with you, JOÁO AROSO, with you, NUNO, my friend, my dear friend. I'm talking to you, for those who are listening to us, I'm talking to you from Porto, from the Clínica do Dragão. We are located in the FC Porto Stadium. And since you asked me about the time frame, specifically about the pre-season, I will start for a major word, screening. If you can't measure it, you cannot improve it. So the first thing is to know exactly how your players are. How your players are in which concerns strength, in which concerns mobility, in which concerns kinematics, in certain motor patterns. And after that baseline, you can progress, you can plan an intervention. Of course, the ideal situation will be to have an individual intervention for each player if of course they have specific asymmetries. If we have a subgroup of players where we didn't find any specific asymmetry, they can go for under a global strength program and motor control program, but they don't need, let's say, a specific intervention. But taking advantage from the time frame of preseason, if we detect in the player A or the player B an asymmetry, for instances, when landing, we can work that. There are several preventive exercise interventions that are safe and that are effective in order to get our player with a good level of safeness and effectiveness in which concerns the game. So I'll say, in order to resume, that we have to screen, we have to identify, if possible, which risk factors the player presents, and try naturally to avoid those risk factors through intervention. These interventions could be by strengthening, by increasing mobility, and especially as well by increasing motor control.
Okay, thank you. In fact, we are talking about the preseason, and João, preseason is a great opportunity to improve our athletes' physical and motor performance. In fact, it's well related with the in-season, the competition, but we have some time to work other things before we enter in the games. So my question is, how do you proceed in which concern load management? Everyone talks about load management and about the possibility of a higher or lower rate of load management can increase the amount of injuries in a team. And in fact, almost every player that are from the 11, from the first 11, they have a lot of probability when compared with the ones that don't play to get injured at least one time in a season. So my question, just to say it again, how do you proceed in which concern load management in the pre-season, like the first planning, the macro cycle?
Okay. Again, speaking as a coach, not as fitness coach,
yes,
I will tell you my concern considering the preseason. My main concern is to allow players to adapt progressively to the effort. What I want is that they get adapt to the pattern microcycle. Not sure if this is the correct term. The pattern microcycle. I mean, the type of microcycle we are going to use during the in-season. What can be two pattern microcycles? I mean, one with only match at the weekend and the other one with match in the middle of the week. So we normally have 5 weeks and a half, 6 weeks normally in preseason. I try to have half of the weeks with one type of microcycle and the others with the other type, to get the players used to the type of effort we are going to use predominantly in each day of the week. This means that we, in the in-season, we have predominant effort exercises that with a predominant effort that we normally use at a certain day of the week. For example, day -1, day -2, for those that we are not that don't are used to these terms. This means day -1, 1 day before the match. This is the idea. And we have a typical and predominant effort for each day of the week, -1, -2, -3, etc. So this is one of the concerns, and the idea of allowing them to adapt, increasing the effort progressively with more concern to the first days of the week, but with this reference of the typical effort for each session to increase from week to the week after to increase the effort, increasing the time of effort, reducing the time of recovery of the exercises, and I'm speaking about exercises at the pitch, in order to increase their fitness. Not sure if this is the correct word. Then probably you can speak better than me specifically about the fitness work, but sharing again my idea, my opinion is that from the first session we can work tactically. So I don't see as a big difference or as different the type of work we do at the preseason, even at the first week, even at the first days of the week, from what we do at the in-season.
Okay, thank you very much. Talking about the in-season,
just to finish, sorry, and the thing of preventing injuries. Of course, we have to start from the first day, more than on the first day during the off season, but from the first day, and as well as the rest that I said, I don't find differences from the preseason to the in-season, even at the prevention always. But the most important thing for me, and things are changing, but I believe and I can understand that in many places it doesn't happen this way, is that people start frequently working with high loads at the first days of the season, not allowing players to adapt. And this is one of the bigger risks of having injuries. I have to leave for some seconds to recharge my battery to get.
I will to ask Rogério. Rogério, we're going to enter in the in-season. Okay. So one of the things I talk a lot in my appear model, strength conditioning course, is about the planning regarding the performance enhancements and injury prevention. So I would like to ask you, what are the major challenges regarding injury prevention obviously in the view of a sport physiotherapist? What are the major challenges regarding injury prevention in a sport, obviously in the soccer team?
Okay, thank you. That is a great question. Well, first, I'll say that we have to get room to do our intervention programs, to put them in the field or in the gym or in the medical department. So we have the need to get all the team together in order to be able to communicate that prevention is in the same line of performance. There is no such thing as thinking that prevention goes in one way and performance goes in the other way. Prevention and performance, they just follow the same way. Because if you are doing interventions, exercise-based interventions with preventive goals, of course, you will improve as well the performance of the athlete. Of course, if you want to do this, you have to convince with facts and not with opinions all the team that prevention works and it is important both to keep the players in the field and to increase their performance. So we all contribute for the same. This is to achieve the most of the wins that we can. Some of the challenges are the compliance. Not always is easy to have the compliance, not only from the players, but also from the technical staff, but fortunately, in nowadays, as I am pretty sure that the coach João AROSO agrees with me, in nowadays, coaches with a scientific background, they are clearly in agreement with the important role that the medical staff has within the team. Since it is very clear that if you don't prevent, you will lose the best players, because we know, and you, Nuno, said in the beginning, that during competition is when most of the injuries happen. If this is it's like that, if it is like this, so you will lose the best players, and nobody wants to lose the best players. We know very well that we can't prevent everything, but we can prevent several injuries. It is very clear. There is a lot of science with high level of evidence in that department, and if we are able to overcome some of the challenges like compliance, like the hard work within the identification of risk factors, because we know some risk factors for some injuries, but of course we don't know them all. So we have to go on studying to understand which risk factors are involved, and we don't know yet. But I'll say that if we have the backup of the coaching team and also of the administration of the club, I'm pretty sure that we are able to overcome some of these challenges, and with a good leadership, because leadership is absolutely essential, the players will comply with the preventive programs, and in the long way, the good results will come, in which concerns the decrease injury rate and also the increase in performance.
Okay, thank you, Rogério, to share your opinion. And we are going to, in fact, we are going to take some advantage of the performance enhancement of the battery laptop of João right now. And yes. I will gladly ask you, as a coach, what are the major challenges in a season regarding injury prevention?
More than the training methodology concerns that I already spoke about, to have a close relationship with the medical department, to have a close relationship and to give importance to the feedbacks that, for example, the physiologist, the person or the person of the technical staff that does the training control, and to really pay attention to these signs that we are. That we have the opportunity to observe. Then probably something that it is the most difficult part, which is to influence players to what we can call the invisible work. I mean, the importance of eating well, of resting, of the importance of hydration. A few days ago, we heard a famous former player, Patrice Evra, speaking about Cristiano Ronaldo. something funny, but which means very important things about this this what we call invisible work, which was he said, if Ronaldo invites you to eat at his house, at his home, don't go. And why? Because he said that he ate chicken breast with salad, and after a few minutes, Ronaldo stand up and picked a ball and invited him to play at his garden. And he said, "But I went here. You invited me to eat, to have lunch, not to play football. No. Come on." So this, and I had the opportunity of working with Ronaldo, and really is an example. That's why he's considered to have a biological age of 23 or something, because he really cares a lot of himself. I can tell you that after the match, he always does the recovery work, as, for example, cryotherapy. He eats well, he drinks well, he worries with his rest. But this is not easy to control with the other players. It's a question of education, a question of influencing them, because it's more difficult because we cannot control, or it's very difficult to control. And it's very important because they spend more hours out of the club than at the club.
Okay. Thank you very much. I have one question for the audience. Rogério, aliás, I was talking in English. For what is the ideal percentage of time to dedicate weekly in prevention to have a reduced risk of injury?
Okay, very well. Very interesting question, because it is a very technical question. Before, in my interventions, I try not to go deep in technical aspects, because I believe the people that are listening to us, they prefer to have broader concepts. They want to see the big picture, but I love this question, and I can tell you that with only 2 sessions a week, with maybe about 20 minutes of duration, we have enough evidence that we can reduce significantly injuries of the lower limb. For instances, if we are speaking about a known intervention program, the 11 plus, that is not the best or not complete for professional athletes, but it's a good basis of work. Of course, we need to do more, but it's a good basis. We have interventions that with only 2 sessions a week, with 20 minutes duration each one, we can decrease 39% of all lower limb injuries. Moreover, very recently, Professor Timothy Hewitt from Clínica Mayo and Professor Kate Webster, they wrote and published a very good work on injuries prevention, and they said that with proper interventions, and again, this will be no more than 2 to 3 sessions a week, and we can do our exercises in a funny way, in a relaxed way. There is no need to see the intervention in which concerns prevention with adding stress to the athletes. We can do it very simply, in a very simple and a very funny way, and achieve great results. In this work from Professor Kate Webster and Professor Timothy Hewitt, they were able to calculate that the prevention effect could reach 50 to 2/3 in which concerns contact and non-contact injuries. So we are speaking about great figures, great numbers, with only 2 or 3 sessions a week. In season, in pre-season, maybe we can do 3 or 4 a week. But in season, we cannot take the risk to be more, let's see, more present that what is cancelled. So to finish my question, I will say 2 sessions a week, 20 minutes, we already get good results.
Okay, thank you, Rogério. I have one question from the audience, Ivan Souza, to head coach João AROSO. He asks, how many weeks of pre-season do you consider ideal? I think you already answered, but that's okay. We can reinforce that. And what kind of work prioritize first in the pre-season in terms of strength gains or VO2 max capacity? It means that maybe 2 questions. Okay. How many weeks of pre-season you consider ideal? And the second one, what kind of work you prioritize first in the pre-season in terms of strength gains and VO2 max capacity?
I believe, as I said before, a minimum of 5 weeks. It depends on how many weeks of holidays players had. It depends as well on the characteristics of the championship. But I believe that minimum of 5 weeks could be enough to have the players almost well prepared, speaking about physically and tactically, to start the competition. Considering then what I prioritize, VO2 max or strength, I believe it was the question. Maybe you could, yes, the question again, or strength gains. As I told you, I usually don't work in a way of prioritize physical capacity first and another physical capacity after. I consider them all at each microcycle, at each week, with the main, with predominance efforts for each day of the week. But if maybe you can add something about that as a fitness coach, if you want.
Yes, about VO2. About the VO2 and
yeah, it was the question. Okay. I don't believe we have. I never consider these factors, these physical dimensions as priorities, one before the other. If I understand.
In fact, I totally agree, because soccer is an intermittent sport, and we need all the components to be in higher level to start the competition. So when we are good in VO2 max, we are good in strength training, and when we are good in strength performance and strength training, we can engage more minutes with less fatigue. So I totally agree with you, João. And it arrives one question for me: what are the strengths and weaknesses of a peer model with the past of the season and the increasing pressure to obtain specific results? In fact, the peer model separates 5 things that are very important to me. The first one, the A, is assessment, the P is planning, the E is enhancement and injury prevention, obviously. The A is analyze all the situation, and the R is reassessment. So we can work, and we can adapt, and we can be flexible regarding the the technical staff and the medical staff. Usually we are engaged in the medical staff. So the weaknesses and the opportunities, it depends of the season, depends of the time of the season, in season, off season, pre-season. For instance, in the off season, maybe, and we will going to have the opportunity to have the opinions of head coach JOÃO and the sport physiotherapist ROGÉRIO, for instance. We have a lot of more time because there are no games. Okay, the player rests, but there are no games. And it depends of the length of the off-season. So this model adapts specifically to the player. For instance, the players that are in the World Cup and that arrive to the final, maybe there will be more pre-season days than the other ones that are going home in the group stages. So it depends. The model is engaged to a lot with the attention training, the focus, the external focus, attention training, the coaching, just to make the player in every second stronger, in every place stronger than the opponent. So it depends. It really depends. But all are engaged to make sure that this kind of situations are regarded to all the peer model. I know that is not a specific answer, but it would be specific if I have just one case study, for instance. Okay, but thank you very much for the answer, for the question. Just to finish, the peer model is related with the player, only with the player, is not stuck with inflexibility. It can adapt to every context. Okay, so thank you very much. Other question for ROGÉRIO. ROGÉRIO, for your experience, what do you think that has changed in the sport physiotherapist in the 10 years? I know that you are a very well experienced physiotherapist. So, for your experience, what has changed in a decade?
Well, that is a very interesting question, and thank you for it. I will tell you a little story about Rio de Janeiro Olympic Games in order to answer you. 10 years ago, not in every country, but in a lot of countries, the physiotherapist was very dedicated to inside treatments. Let's say this. There was a short span in which concerns intervention. There was a focus in rehabilitation, in the acute and subacute rehabilitation process, and there was few space for preventive interventions. Yet in nowadays we have to say this, because if you look, for instances, to our football reality, you will see that only a few clubs have a complete, if complete is a broader concept, a very large concept, but only few clubs have a coach with a complete medical team, such as a sports medicine specialist, a physiotherapist, a nurse, and then in the staff, strength and conditioning coach. There are very few clubs that afford this kind of reality. But in which concerns Rio Olympics, I was there working in the polyclinic inside the Olympic Village, and I can tell you that myself and my colleagues, we were working essentially with manual therapy and exercise-based interventions. Of course, when we have an acute injury, we have to make all the modalities, such as electrotherapy or thermotherapy or whatever. But we need to change our focus in order to do prevention, in order to go all the way to the field with our athlete, and not to be only concerned with the first steps of rehabilitation. So I'll say that in the last 10 years, we have a lot more of knowledge in which concerns the risk of secondary injuries. For instances, we know that it's not enough to fight against the symptoms. It's not enough to get the player with the full range of mobility, inclusively with the full strength pattern, local strength pattern. We know that we need also to focus our attention in the software and not in the hardware. So I'll say that physiotherapy in nowadays has a basis of a main focus in prevention, and also in very active rehabilitation. Essentially, exercise-based rehabilitation with progression upon specific structural and functional criteria, and then also we have a role in which concerns the decision to return to play. So we have to be present in all the timeline, but we have to be present not alone, but with all the team, the coach together, the strength and conditioning coach as well. We need to work as a team. We alone, we cannot achieve the best results. So we have to work as a team. And today I'll say that the physiotherapist is very well integrated in medical teams and in the coaching teams, and he has a main role in which concerns prevention and, of course, rehabilitation. The main change was from a passive perspective, or more passive perspective, to a more active perspective in which concerns changing the physical and functional reality of the players.
Okay, thank you, Rogério. In fact, the power of communication is very important between the medical staff, technical staff, regarding the strength and conditioning coach, the physiotherapist, the doctor, and all the technical staff. It's a key factor to the success, in my opinion, obviously. And speaking of success, we are going to enter in the World Cup model, in the short tournament model. We have spoken in the preseason, in the off season. Now we're going to speak about the World Cup. It's a very challenging moment for all players in terms of their physical condition, of their motivation, being able to stay in the proper focus in all parts of the game. So my first question is going to the head coach, JOÃO. What's the difference in terms of practical training, planning between a full season and a short tournament like the World Cup, for instance?
Completely different. First of all, in a competition like the World Cup or the European Cup, players are at the end of the season. So the thing is, I can give you the example of what the Portuguese national team staff did this time before the World Cup. They allow players to rest for 1 week. To almost all of them, but those players that were that by reasons of having been injured, those that started playing later at the season. So, but those that had a normal season of competition, they allow them to rest. And the most important concern at these competitions is to respect this need of recover, because they are, as I said, they are at the end of the season. Then I believe the importance of evaluating them to understand exactly how they are, speaking about their fitness. And then we have normally 5 days from game to game to the World Cup. We could think that in normal situations they would have time to recover completely, because these 5 days allow that. But again, there are for sure some players that, because they have more than 50 games played during the week, because they have more than 5,000 minutes of competition, they have to be submitted to a different I'm missing the words.
Behavior, a different treatment.
Yes, to make the appropriate relation of training and recovery for them. And that's why at these kind of competitions, apart this concern of the fitness, which is much more recovering than anything else,
yes,
the main concern is to prepare each game strategically, tactically, to face the opponent. So completely different of a preparation of a full season.
Okay, thank you very much. In terms regarding the injury draw, I will ask to physiotherapist Rogério, what are the main injuries that occur during a short tournament, like for instance this World Cup? What are the main injuries that acute injuries that can occur? The main ones.
Well, in this specific tournament in Russia 2018, we are still counting, right? But it seems that it already is taking the muscle injuries are already taking the lead. It seems so. In fact, this reality is in line with the most frequent injury in professional football, that is the injury of the hamstrings, specifically of the biceps femoris. So I believe this World Cup will not be different. If we report, for instances, to 2014 World Cup, I can tell you that in Brazil there was in total 114 injuries registered, and 25% of them were injuries in the thigh, and specifically muscle injuries. So I believe this will not be this World Cup will not be different, and the muscle injuries will take the lead. I believe we will get those numbers at the end of the day.
Okay, thank you. João, based on your experience, everyone talks about the motivation and the main difference of a team can be that...
I lost you for some seconds.
Don't worry, I can repeat.
Okay.
Based on your experience as a head coach, as a coach, you have a lot of experience, a large experience in football so far. So based on experience as a coach, everyone talks about motivation factors beyond the rest and recovery of physical levels. What do you feel can be the key factor for players to perform at their best during the World Cup, even if they are in fatigue way?
The emotional part is crucial, as you said. I don't want to mention some cases, but in teams where we understand that the environment, the social environment, is good, it's the probability of the performance of a good performance is much higher. Of course, everything it is important. Everything is related because if the team is not well prepared tactically with appropriate strategy for the match, of course, the performance is difficult to be the best. But considering the experience that I have, everything is important. The physical training, the strategy, the tactical strategy, everything is important. But if I can choose something to highlight its importance, something that if we don't have this at a good level, I would choose the human relations. The human relations between all the group, the human relations between technical staff and players, relation with the rest of the staff, physiotherapists, medical department in general, even the people that treats of the equipment of the athletes. This is very important. Moreover, in a context as a World Cup, where the group is where people see each other every day. They are their family for about 1 month. So this plays an important role to achieve the success.
Okay, thank you. I have a question from Ricardo Silva. I think it's for the head coach, JOÃO AROSO. The physical fitness demands of the football are increasing. Doesn't look a paradox that, especially in Portugal, the role of the fitness coach is losing space?
Hi, Ricardo. Ricardo is a friend of mine. We worked in Boa Vista many years ago. I believe he's very far away right now. Ricardo, I think the times are changing, even relating with this. It's true that maybe 10 years ago, it was almost a sacrilege speaking about fitness preparation, fitness coaches, but I believe that things are changing. The thing is, I think that the role of the fitness coach, it's much more specific. 10 years ago and 15 years ago, I'm reading the message of Ricardo. At that time, any guy from the sports sciences was called the fitness coach. I had, for example, this denomination as well, and I never was really a fitness coach. Ricardo, I know, for example, that he is a fitness coach, and I believe the role of the fitness coaches are crucial. Not only, I think they may have a very important role considering the injuries prevention, working close with the medical department, working close with physiotherapists. I believe they can have an important role in the control of the training. I believe they can have an important role even, of course, during the training sessions, the normal training sessions for all the group. But the thing is that at a certain time, a current of the training, not sure if we can use this term in English, started disregarding the importance of this intervention, believing that everything is static from the first minute of the session until the end. This is not true. I believe as well that we can work if we work the physical part involved in the football exercises. We will be working much more specifically, of course, working with the specificity of the football. But then there are some interventions that we can do it this way, and at this complementary part, not sure if I'm not making mistakes, this role of the fitness coach is crucial. Okay, so Ricardo, I think maybe you are far away, but things are fortunately things are changing in Portugal as well.
Fortunately, they are changing for everyone, I think. And from the World Cup, I would like to ask Rogério. It's important to know that in fact we are talking about these three parts of a puzzle: the head coach, the physical fitness coach or strength conditioning coach, and the sport physiotherapist. And what I want to ask to Rogério is very simple. We know that primary injury prevention has good results. What about secondary prevention? It means that what about the players in the World Cup that has fallen the field? How can we help them? Can you help us on that?
Well, I hope so. That is a very interesting question. I would like to take advantage of just 1 second and send a hug to Ricardo. Great, outstanding professional, great student, great friend, I must say.
Let me send the hug again, because Ricardo has sent me too, so I don't know Ricardo yet, but thank you very much for your participation. Yeah.
Well, in which concerns secondary prevention, I have to say that I really thank you for that question, Nuno, since, as you know, in my PhD studies, in which concerns secondary prevention and return to play, I have a major concern with that. And this is because we know that the major risk factor for injury is, in which concerns, for instance, muscle injuries, is a first injury. So if you had injury, you will be in greater risk of having another one. So, which is absolutely mandatory, in my opinion, is to work based on facts, based on scientific facts. And science, and I will like to recall, for instance, just to cite one, the article of 2016 from Ash Grindem, which got a fantastic number. If you rely in criteria to return to play, in biological criteria and functional criteria, you may decrease 84% of the re-injury rate. If you allow me, I will repeat. If you work with the goal of reaching certain biological and functional criteria, you may lower the rate of re-injury in 84%. So, in which concerns secondary prevention, of course, the secondary prevention will start at the rehabilitation process. You have to do all the rehabilitation. For instance, since we are speaking about muscle injuries, we have to respect the time frame of tissue healing, but this does not mean that we cannot start exercising immediately, because we can and we should. We should exercise immediately with the player, and then progressively and based in criteria, we go on the rehabilitation process. And after we reach symmetry in which concerns healing and functional performance, then we screen our athlete again, we reassess our athlete again, and as a team we decide if he is ready to go back to the field. Because if we don't accomplish these biological and functional criteria, we are not doing secondary prevention. In the other end, and to conclude my answer, you have to go on doing preventive exercises in order to avoid, at least in the first months of return to play, in the first 2 years, another injury, because it is very clear that in the year after the injury or in the 2 years after injuries, there is an increased risk of re-injury. So if you rely in functional and biological criteria, you can, of course, help those athletes that fall in the field, but they will for sure rise again happy and strong, for sure.
Thank you very much. I think Ricardo has entered as the center back, is the Pep right now, or Ricardo of the session.
We are about to finish. We are going a little bit further of our time, but just to finish, we have here a question from a lady this time. So I think we would finish well trying to answer to this question. Would you mind reading it, NUNO?
Yes, talking about Russia World Cup, as there is a different environment and preseason physical preparation between Europe, football teams, and Arabic teams, how we can count or we should separate the number of injuries. Also, they start playing directly after Ramadan period, so can be a low performance preparation and increase the number of injuries. What is your opinion about that?
I can have a very short comment. Of course, speaking about, for example, Saudi Arabia, almost all the players were playing in Saudi Arabian Championship. Almost all but 3 players that they trained. They didn't play, but they trained in Spanish clubs. But I can tell you, considering this national team of Saudi Arabia, that I read that before the first match, and they had a strong defeat, as you probably know. I read that they had the Ramadan before, so this is a big concern. I never had the experience of working at these countries, living with. But more than this question of the Saudi Arabians, I can tell you that depending on the competitions where the players of the different national teams participate, the implications are significantly different, because players that played in the biggest clubs and the most important championships, they were submitted to a level of effort that players that other players don't. For example, We have some Nordic teams that those players played in their championships, and the type of the magnitude of the effort is completely different, for example, than the main championships of Europe, as Spain, Germany, or England, for example. So this implies, of course, different approaches considering their preparation. Rogério, maybe.
Yeah. Rogério, do you want to finish saying something about this subject?
Well, I can tell you that we have here at Clínica do Dragão, Espregueira Mendes Sport Center, we have some experience with Middle East players, but as the coach JOÃO AROSO said, some of them are playing abroad, and some do the Ramadan and some doesn't. But speaking about those that do it, our sports medicine specialist, Dr. NUNO Loureiro and João Pedro Araújo, we are all working together in this bridge between Porto and Middle East, since we have some of our medical sports medicine specialists working there in this moment in Abu Dhabi. And we have some experience in which concerns this religious period. So it is difficult to establish a correlation. It is difficult. I believe it can impact the performance, since if we go to the nutritional aspect, we know that the distribution, for instances, of protein during the day is very important in order to maintain the muscle mass in certain level. If you don't do your nutritional plan as usual and as the sport nutritionists recommend, you know that you can lose some, and that will probably correlate with performance. So we have to study a little bit more about that. Maybe I can give a tip in which concerns outside reading of this webinar. Maybe you can read some works of Dr. Yassine Zerghini, that has great experience in this topic. Dr. Yassine Zerghini is from the FIFA medical staff, and maybe you also can read some works from a common project between our clinic, Clínica Dragão, and Football Medicine project. So maybe you can read a little bit more of from there, but it is not clear the impact of Ramadan in performance and in injuries rate. It is not clear. We lack some evidence on that.
Can I just
Thank
say
you so much?
Can I just say a sentence, just a phrase? Pay very much attention on the acute chronic workload ratio. I think it will be very much helping to all the technical staff and medical staff regarding the Ramadan and the post-Ramadan.
Okay, thank you guys. Thank you for the wonderful work, Nuno. You are a wonderful moderator of this debate. Thank you, João. Thank you, Rogério. I think this was a wonderful conversation. Maybe we could have in the future one more discussion, because we have here many questions from our audience still to answer. But for now, thank you very much, and see you soon. And thank you for your contribution to this discussion. Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Go Portugal.
Go Portugal.
Thank you.
Ciao. See you. Thank you.